Okay, it's about that time. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're at. Welcome to today's webinar presentation, Multi-Channel Renaissance, Ebiquity plus Stratigent. Today's event will include Stratigent CEO Bill Bruno and Ebiquity's Managing Director Dan Solis. Both will share the time we have today covering a couple of important topics. Logistically, we will be saving time for questions at the end, which you are welcome to submit through the question box located within the webinar widget. So we thank you for your participation, and with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Bruno.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're very excited. This is the first of many great things coming out of the partnership between Ebiquity and Stratigent. For those of you unfamiliar, Stratigent was acquired by Ebiquity in August of this year, and it's been a very exciting time for us. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with Stratigent as a result, that may be coming in from the Ebiquity side. Stratigent has been focused on analytics consulting since the beginning of 2002. We call ourselves now a multi-channel analytics consulting group, and what that basically means for our clients is we have both a business and technical team that partner with our clients to ultimately help them establish confidence in the data that they're collecting across all of their different channels, and then ultimately help them analyze that data, come up with some insights, and then optimize the user experience, whatever that may mean for their business. We are now a cornerstone of Ebiquity's marketing performance optimization practice, and definitely are very excited about all of the great things we've got working behind the scenes here in this partnership, and I think this webinar will be the first example of that. From an agenda standpoint, I'm going to just sort of walk through three common themes that are very important for our clients lately, and provide a little bit of insight into how to think about these things, but namely data integration, mobile tracking, and how to move forward with an appropriate strategy for mobile apps. And talk briefly about Stratigent's approach to social media and our social media framework before I hand things over to Dan, who's going to walk through an overview of Ebiquity and a fantastic tool that Ebiquity has acquired that's called Sonar, formerly Echo, for those of you that may have been familiar with it at that stage. It's a product that many of our clients are benefiting from, and I think provides some very unique approaches and insights into social media for those clients. So we're really excited to be walking you guys through this today. And as Dave mentioned, feel free to submit any questions. We're saving a significant portion of time at the end to address and answer as many of those as possible. And this webinar will also be available the recording will be available after the fact, in addition to the slides for those of you that may need it as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started and talk a bit about data integration here, and more importantly about why this view is what a majority of people think data integration or big data means to them. And for many of our clients, and I think this is the double-edged sword of buzzwords like big data in general, but it makes people think about things in the utopian view of we want to get all of our data in one place so that we can analyze it and effectively manage it. The problem with that is that this view could take forever, given internal politics and bureaucracy and frankly just all of the different silos and channels that your business is operating in. And more specifically, I think the problem with this vision is that frankly it's in our nature to want the best, the brightest, the most complicated, or the most involved implementation of anything. But as you go down that path, and we've seen many clients go down this path, the data ownership piece becomes a huge barrier, and a lot of IT lockup comes into play as you're looking to build that utopian view of bringing all of your different data sets together, whether that's the web, mobile, social, offline transactional data, CRMs, you name it. I know all of you have a significant number of channels at your fingertips and are probably struggling with how to best think about this from a business standpoint. And so our approach is to help clients simplify this process a bit and try to balance some short-term wins here with that longer-term view or utopia, so to speak. Because the longer the runway to value, the more pressure you're going to feel across the organization from a cost standpoint, and the more pressure you have results, the more likely that budget is taken away if it's taking too long to prove it and to prove the value of those investments. And quite frankly, it also seems to be that from a common theme standpoint, it's very difficult to create that one view, because many folks in the organization aren't even sure what data is needed to begin with, or what data is most important to the organization. And so we find that the right approach to this and the right way to think about a data integration for those of you looking to do this is to build a bit of a measurement framework, and to think of it in a simplified form of, okay, down the left-hand side here, what are the different silos or data sets we have available right now for our business that we can get our hands on or can work with business stakeholders to make use of. And from there, thinking about that landscape and what you have there from an input standpoint, really put some strategic thought into what does the output need to be? What are we trying to do? Who needs to see specific reports and dashboards? What type of insights or what business questions are we looking to answer from these different data sets? And frankly, once we have those insights or the answers to those questions and the ability to develop hypotheses for improvement, how do we want to go about leveraging that data to actually improve the customer experience? And so instead of jumping in and just merging data together, if you put a framework around it and think more specifically around what the executives need to see, what the stakeholders need to see, and what the requirements are generally across the organization, it's going to help you simplify the process to the point where largely the ideal vision then becomes getting the right data to the right people at the right time. At the end of the day, bringing this data together, whether it's in that utopian large database that exists somewhere or if it's in a more manageable system, really the goal of analytics, regardless of the channels you operate in, is the mantra right here of getting the right data to the right people at the right time. And what that ends up looking like for our clients in the short term is something like this, as an example, where for folks that are in charge of your mobile channel, they may have a data store available to them that includes some of the web and mobile data in a common place in dashboards, reports, or even just for the sake of querying and analysis of the data available to them to understand what's working, what isn't, and how users are interacting with their channel. And the same could be said for really any business stakeholders. For example, folks that are in charge of perhaps reach and acquisition campaigns. They may start with the simple data set of information from the affiliates and third-party agencies that may be managing those campaigns, merged with your website data, your mobile data, so on and so forth, in a place where they're able to look and understand, how are these campaigns performing, what's working and what isn't, so that ultimately they can start to gain learnings right away while you're working on that more utopian view of bringing that data together for the larger organization. And we found that for clients looking to go down this path, thinking about it in a more segmented fashion like this and building a more strategic framework and thought process around how data needs to be leveraged in the organization and what data is important to which people, it helps you get to this plan much more quickly. The time to value is much shorter. And ultimately, you end up, being able to show an ROI for the investments that are being made, because people can actually point to, decisions that are being made off of that data, and you're well on your way to becoming a data-driven organization. And the ultimate thing to remember here is that the whole reason we collect data is not to sit back and admire it, but to actually, take action off of it. And we'll get into some of these things about mobile and social, and ultimately in the Sonar demo as well, which does a great job of making social data actionable. But it is so important, in the world that we live in and from a budgetary standpoint to be able to take action off of the data as quickly as possible and to simplify your approach to the point where you're not just jumping right in and doing things without a framework built or without a thought process or a strategy around it. And this is something that we preach to our clients on a daily basis, is trying to remind them that, sure, we could go down that path of that 10-month integrations schedule, or we could take some baby steps here and generate some insights for the business that really start to add some value from day one. So that's sort of the key learning that we wanted to cover from a data integration standpoint, and move into sort of the high-level overview of mobile here. And mobile is an interesting one, because I think we can all agree it's developing every day. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow and there's a new device that that completely forces us to rethink how we're managing and tracking individuals that are using those devices. And for our clients, they're definitely struggling in this realm, and I'm sure some of you are having similar struggles. And the main reason that we're seeing a struggle as it pertains to how to track the usage of mobile apps, mobile sites, or even when you delve into the types of apps, if you have something that's more hybrid or something that's native in terms of iOS or Android, is that forever and for a very long time, our mentality for tracking individuals in the digital channel has been page views. The analytics vendors, whether you're using Adobe or Google or IBM or Comscore, you name it, their models and their pricing is based off of page views and usage, and it's just been a mentality that frankly doesn't work for mobile apps. And more specifically, as you think about a mobile app in general, page view doesn't even really exist. You could argue that the screens are page views, but really when you go down that path and you have that page view mentality and that pathing mentality for mobile, it really impacts the implementation. And we've seen this across the majority of our clients that have gone down this path, because without that fundamental change in thought of thinking about actions instead of page views in a mobile app environment, it really slows the implementation. In some cases, it stalls it. It really overcomplicates things as well as you try to implement these SDKs in a page view type setup. And frankly, the implementations that are done that way become largely unscalable. And an unscalable implementation in a mobile environment, as I'm sure some of you know, is not good, because there's nothing being innovated more quickly than mobile. New app updates are being released daily, and that process is involved enough, let alone a complicated tracking strategy on top of that. And very often, the more complicated the tracking strategy, the more likely it's left off the development plan as you're looking to hit deadlines for the publication of your apps within whatever app store that may be living. And so for us, as we sit down with clients, from a strategic standpoint, we try to get them to really focus on two main things. One is, you're trying, from a mobile channel standpoint, you need to look to create a common identifier that allows you to basically identify someone in that mobile channel, such that you can identify that same person when they interact with you on the web or social, or call center or whatever may be available for your business. And first and foremost, that becomes the most important point of focus, is when you're tracking a mobile app, creating or collecting that common identifier will allow you to do that cross-channel analysis and ultimately allow you to take the actions that are so very important, as mentioned before. And as you think about the tracking of these actions within an application and the details of those actions, the reason the actions are more important than page views is because the whole point of tracking within a mobile app is to help it better inform the usage for future releases, and to be able to make real-time in-app optimization changes or offers to users based upon what they're doing or what they aren't doing. And there's definitely quite a few mobile analytics vendors out there that offer these types of things, such as Localytics. But the thing to think about here, as you're optimizing and looking to improve the usage of mobile is that the actions should dictate the design of the app in future releases. And if you're tracking the correct actions and you have that common identifier, it allows you to understand which channels your customers have a propensity to do which actions, right? So you may find, and for example, one of our financial clients noticed that people went to the website to do account transfers or monetary transfers, but they went to the mobile app to deposit checks, to check their balance, so on and so forth. And without that common identifier, they wouldn't be able to tell that complete story for someone like myself interacting with them across multiple channels, and they would lack that ability to fully understand how their customers are leveraging those channels to perform which specific sets of actions. And so to make this a little bit more clear and provide some examples here, one of the common requests in web analytics is pathing, right? And I think one of the reasons that many of our clients look to implement a page view model in a mobile app is because they want to see that pathing. Instead of pathing, what we've done for a lot of clients is, given the fact that a user could potentially perform an action within their application in several different places, is simply identify which screen or which location that action is happening in, and then in essence you're able to see the same pathing with a much less complicated version of tracking from an analytics standpoint. Time on site is another one that our clients for some reason always love to see. And in the mobile app standpoint, instead of looking at time on site, we urge our clients to think about things as how many times a person's interacting with the app, how frequently are people interacting with the app, and based on the total number of downloads that you have for that app, how many active users do you have versus how many are just latent and have downloaded it and not touched it. And again, the person's unique identifier. Many of these mobile apps, users are expecting to log in or to have to provide information, and that makes it very, very easy for you to be able to track some sort of identifier to integrate, across channels and tell that complete story. And as I mentioned, that complete story is to really understand the channel preference for your visitors for specific actions or activities that they can complete in across these multiple channels. And thinking about mobile tracking from this perspective really allows you to focus more on the action and not get bogged down in an overcomplicated implementation. And what we've seen for clients that have taken this action-based implementation strategy versus the page view version is that as they do iterations of the app and create new apps, those actions that they tracked previously still exist. They may have changed subtly or they may have moved to different screens, but the actions are still there. And so the tracking that was created early on for that action is still relevant. And it becomes more of a tweaking of the implementation as new releases are put out there instead of it being a more complicated re-engineering of the entire implementation. And that is a key point of note here as we're moving down this path and devices are coming out of the woodwork each day seemingly with new capabilities and new functionality. Because if you're bogged down in the implementation, and this is true really for any channel, but if you're bogged down in the implementation, you're quite frankly never going to be able to free up your time to actually look at the data and see what story that data is trying to tell you so that you can improve the user experience. And this is not easy. I'm not claiming it's easy. It's not something that you can overcome overnight because it's a mentality shift, much like becoming a data-driven organization in general. It requires executive sponsorship. It requires the appropriate support, and it requires a lot of lobbying in some cases because you're there. And this happens with all of our clients as well. But there will be people that are still clamoring to see the pathing within a mobile app, as an example, or how long people are spending within the app. And the key point of note here goes back to the most simple discussion around key performance indicators, which is something that's existed as terminology in this industry for years. But a KPI is only a KPI if it's actionable. And a lot of times we have to have interesting discussions with clients that basically have us stating, okay, that's cool. You want to see time on site. If we provide that metric, what type of action can you take on that, right? And that's where the conversation needs to go as it pertains to building a measurement framework. A key component of that framework is what data actually allows you to better understand what's working and what isn't, and ultimately create and come up with hypotheses for change to improve that experience for your users. And the same can be said as you're looking to build a framework for social. And as we walk into the Sonar demo here in a few minutes, you'll see why our clients love that technology from the standpoint of being able to actually provide insights and above and beyond just a bunch of data to look at. And it helps. Sonar really helps a lot of organizations avoid the common mistakes in social. Similar to mobile, because it's so new, because it's innovating every day, because a lot of these social vendors don't have SLAs and can change things seemingly overnight, it's very difficult to stay out in front of it. One of the biggest mistakes that we've seen for clients that are playing catch up or looking to get involved in the social space is that they simply go and look and see what their competitors are doing and they copy it. It's always been interesting to me, having worked at Stratigent now for about 9 years. We have so many clients in specific verticals that view themselves as competitors, and even going back to the analytics side, just web analytics and the implementation of those tools, it was always really interesting to see how different the implementations looked for organizations that viewed themselves as competitors. And I think the same thing can be said here for social, in that what works for one of your competitors might not necessarily work for you. I think there's a lot of time spent trying to come up with the perfect communication plan for social before you just jump out there and test the waters. And again, going back to my point about mobile or the point about data integration, is if you're spending too much time in the theory and trying to build the most perfect way to do things, the runway to value is too long there, and it's putting undue pressure on the organization. We've also seen clients make a lot of mistakes in terms of investing in social interactions or social platforms without any plan for measuring the success or ROI of those initiatives, right? So sort of blindly, going out there and not really thinking through how you're going to measure the influenced revenue or influenced conversion from those actions. And probably the final point here from a common mistake standpoint is forgetting that each channel is different. As you interact in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, they're different audiences that expect to see different things. And quite frankly, we've run into this in our Stratigent social channels as well, and have learned from it. People interact with us differently in Facebook, on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, so on and so forth. And it's okay. And so it requires you to set different goals and have different expectations for what those channels are going to provide for your business. And so everybody has a framework. There's so many published online. Stratigent, we try to stay away from wasting too much time building fancy frameworks that seemingly need to be changed overnight the minute the platforms, such as Facebook, make changes. But we try to simplify this for our clients. And these are some simple guidelines that we try to put in place for our clients that are looking to gain some success and understanding about the social channels for their business. And the first and foremost thing that needs to be done is you need to establish some goals. What are your executives or management team or even yourself looking to achieve from social? What are you trying to do? And once you have a general understanding of what you're trying to do, it becomes more simple to create some key performance indicators or some success metrics. Basically focusing on how are you going to measure if your approach is working or needs to be revised, right? I think we can all agree social is cool and all, but it's not just there for fun. It's to monetize and build customer loyalty and interactions. And so once you have some of those metrics, come up with an approach. Think about the different channels you want to get involved in and how you want to try to interact in those channels to accomplish and complete the goals that you've set forth already. And then just get out there and do it. Engage with the customers and track their responses, the reactions, the influence, and what have you. But don't be stuck in your ways, right? I think social forces us even more so than mobile to constantly innovate and optimize what we're doing, and be willing to make those changes. For so many years, websites were, because of IT lockdown, were so rigid and so kind of stuck to where changing the message or the approach was a large undertaking. In social, that's not the case. You've got channels that are able to be interacted with and changed very quickly because they're all cloud-based. The IT lockdown doesn't really exist, and as your branding changes, so can these channels. And so as you look to change and sort of go with the flow, let the data tell the story. As with anything else, any data that you're tracking for social is there for you to take action off of, not just there for you to look at. And these are some of the key guidelines that we try to walk our clients through to make sure that they're making the right investments and that ultimately they're fully understanding the value that's being generated from the different channels that they're interacting in. And so just before I hand things over to Dan here, there's some key thoughts that to wrap things up are, for data integration, you need to simplify it. Think about how do you get the right data to the right people at the right time so that they can take action on it and improve your investments for reach, acquisition, and really any other initiative that you're doing across the different channels that you're interacting in. And the way that you do that is by building a measurement framework for your business and really thinking about what data you have at your fingertips and who needs what and when they need it and what they need to do with it. And with mobile, forget about the page views. Think about the actions within the apps that are important so that you can fully understand how users are interacting with you across the mobile devices and what actions are important to them or need to be in place and easily accessible for them. And then, frankly, with social, you need to create some goals and be willing to adapt over time. It's not something that's set in stone, and seemingly overnight, your approach may need to change as your audience changes across the different social channels. And so, with that, I'm going to turn things over to Dan here so that he can walk through some overview of Ebiquity and show you the Sonar tool that I've mentioned several times here along the way.
All right, thanks, Bill. That was great. You guys are doing some fantastic work in that space. So I think everyone on the line is pretty impressed by how you bring all that together. So let me take everyone through an introduction to Ebiquity. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Dan Soulis, Managing Director of Ebiquity in North America. Our office is located in New York, down in the Flatiron District. So, what we do, our goal at Ebiquity is to provide data-driven insights to the marketing and communications community to continually improve our clients' return on investment. Our tagline is data-driven insights, and across all of our practices, we use data to provide our clients with key metrics and key insights that are really going to improve their performance. Just the tail of the tape on Ebiquity, some of you may not know us that well. We have 20 offices across 14 countries. We employ approximately 800 people. Annually, we do about $100 million in revenue, and we work for 85 of the top 100 global marketers. We are working with 1,200 businesses worldwide, 20 of the world's most admired, and 100 of the world's top advertisers. Our goal at Ebiquity is to really help our clients answer their key questions, and we do that across a number of platforms. We work in a connected world these days where we have brand communications, we have business communications, we have industry communications, and across our practices, we really help all of our clients monitor, measure, benchmark, and advise. So we want them to understand what's going on in their market, how they're performing in their market, setting benchmarks so that they understand how their performance compares with the market, but then also having those benchmarks in place for future analysis that we do for them, but then also help them improve their performance and measure progress. So Bill touched on the social world, and I want to take you through our Sonar platform. But before I do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the Ebiquity research practice. Stratigent joined Ebiquity just a few months ago. Prior to us joining the Ebiquity family, we were conducting business under the Echo Research name. So we have 25 years of history working in the communication space. We work with marketers to help them better understand their audience, how to communicate to that audience, and monitor how their activities are impacting their audience. We do a lot of research with public affairs and public relations professionals to support their PR and thought leadership activities. And we work with a number of corporate communications professionals, really focusing on corporate reputation research among key stakeholders, and then our analysis to really help our clients better understand the strengths and weaknesses to their reputation so that they can maximize reputation's support to its overall market capitalization. And for all those clients, we monitor how their companies, their brands, their campaigns, their reputation are being discussed online in those online conversations. So what's different about Ebiquity's solution compared to a lot of other services out there is that we've combined our dashboard, which is available 365 days a year, 24/7. It's a live updated dashboard. And we've incorporated our human analytical team to provide our clients with an understanding of their online earned media insights. Our background as a company, as I mentioned, we go back 25 years, and we really started in traditional media analysis. Over the years, we have developed a network of over 200 analysts that speak every language in the world. So we're monitoring our client performance around the world in all languages and providing them with insights. Our platform was designed based on input that we heard from clients that they don't have time to manage a dashboard. They're getting inundated with information, whether it's social information or online news information, and it comes into them through some sort of a portal, and they either have to make sense of it themselves or have somebody on their team do that, and they simply don't have time. And that's really what we're about, providing insights to our clients so that they really understand the impact of these communications on their business. So as I mentioned, we have our dashboard. We also have our analytics to provide our clients with in-depth reports and insights into their online presence. Let me take everyone quickly through our dashboard. So what we have here, trying to minimize this screen. Okay, so what we have here is our dashboard, and as you see from up top here, we have a combined tab here which brings in your online news presence as well as your social media presence over here. You have the ability to change the dates so you can focus on a certain week, a certain day, a certain month. This demo up for the hotel industry. So we have a number of companies in here, and we're pulling in information on, I think, 8 or 9 hotels from both news and social media. We have the ability to also pull in Twitter feeds. We did not incorporate that into this demo. So you have the ability, again, to look at certain date ranges. You can look at different parts of the world. You can go down to specific countries throughout the world. You can look at certain languages. This platform was set up in English only. And then you can look at certain media. you have the ability to look at all of the media, but we also can create customized media lists for our clients. So if you are a financial services company and you want to put together a top-tier financial publications list, we can create that media list for you. When you select it in the Media tab, it then filters all of the coverage based on those publications. For each of the graphics here, you have the ability to click them on, expand the graphic, and you can look and see what's happening at different points of time. So Intercontinental Hotel Group on September 18th, they had 794 online news stories about them. You click on that little, and it brings up all of those stories. So it gives you access to the original coverage. You can then click on any of these stories to read through the exact story and how your company was being positioned, or you have the ability to export this entire listing of coverage through an Excel file and share that internally with your teams. We also have the social media tab, which does the same thing again. You can focus on different periods of time, and you can pull up coverage on the social media. What was being said in social media about an organization. Here is Wyndham on September 17th, and you look at the sources of coverage here. These are just the different publications, and this is their blogs and social sites. Trend over time. We also have your share of voice over this particular period of time, so you can monitor your share of voice versus others. Now that's our summary page. If you go into the analysis tab, we want to provide you, all of this is customized for our clients. So when we set this up, we define the search parameters or the analytical parameters that we're going to provide this coverage to you. We work with our clients to come up with media topics, so they want to better understand the conversations that are going on in the industry as they relate to them and their competitors in a number of different areas. As you see, these are basic search terms. We can modify these around corporate communications activities. We can modify them around a public relations campaign or around a marketing campaign. We also have a list of key influencers. So these are usually C-level people or industry people who are very vocal when speaking on different topics or different companies. And then we have volume of key messages. So these are different messages that talk about collaboration, customer satisfaction. Again, these are all customized for our clients. Each of these categories are umbrella categories. So underneath this or behind the scenes, the search terms will actually use several different ways to refer to customer satisfaction or financial coverage as well. And then you have the ability to look at your media list. So this will show you what types of coverage that you're getting. Again, this is a combined dashboard, the news and social. So what you're seeing here is a variety of television websites, different social reviews, regional newspapers, forums and blogs. There's a number of different media types that we pull in. And then these are the leading media that are speaking during this period of time. You have the ability to select, a certain hotel. Let's say we wanted to look at Marriott only. We then apply that. It then filters the data on this page. It's not going to change the graphic above. It's still going to leave that the same, but then it's going to filter the data below based on the leading media for Marriott during this period of time. The other tabs are very similar in terms of how they operate. This one is a combined tab. You can also go directly into your social. This is your social media coverage. We have this coverage from 9/1 through 9/20. Let's say you just wanted to look at the last week from the 13th through the 20th. It's going to automatically, when I click apply here, it's going to change the graphic. So you see Intercontinental Hotel Group, very, the most coverage in the social media space compared to all the competition. You can, again, click on each of these areas and take a deeper dive into what that coverage is saying. So that is a quick overview of the platform. I could spend a lot more time on here, but we want to leave some time at the end for Q&A. But then also, as I mentioned, we take this to the next level through the way we report to our clients. I just want to show you a few reporting examples. This is one we did for BNY Mellon. This is a report that we set up to have a dashboard-driven look to it. So the first page serves as a dashboard, providing the clients with key metrics. But then you click on any of those graphics, it blows it up into a slide of its own, and then our team of analysts are doing analysis. They're reading through the online coverage, and they're providing just some analytics to really provide flavor around what was driving coverage during this period of time. Click on that arrow to go back. You then have the ability to look at a competitor trend in isolation with some analytics done by our team again. And then what's really cool about our platform is it's just the beginning of where we are taking our evolution in reporting what's going on online. A lot of our clients are responsible for other areas of communications or other activities within the organization. So our Sonar platform is going to be a component in our vital signs reporting. And this is just one example I wanted to share with you. These reports, again, are all customized for our clients. We have the ability to pull in information that we supply to our clients, but then we also have the ability to pull in information that they are getting from other sources or even other companies that could be direct competitors of ours. So this is discussing just what we found through our media analysis through the Sonar dashboard. And then we're pulling in here some key metrics or their vital signs around brand familiarity, advocacy, and the percent of their stakeholders that view them as. These are all metrics that are done from that are gathered or grabbed from another research project done by another company that we pull in here. We create these newsletters. We often will, if we have the director of the CCO who wants to send this out internally, we can put his picture up here. He can then draft a little letter to everyone, sort of discussing what's going on and then providing them with this information. So it's taking a social and online news platform to the next level by incorporating other metrics. And then here are just some other ways to report the information that we gather through our platform. Again, the platform is there. Our clients visit it on a regular basis. They like to look at the stories that are hitting most recently so they can share them internally. But we put together these reports. Some of our clients get them daily. Others get them weekly, monthly, or quarterly to just provide more insights into what's going on around this, around their online presence. I should also mention that we do sentiment analysis, so we're providing you with an understanding of the tonality of your coverage online. We are not doing this using an automated approach. We are actually having our analysts read through the coverage and scoring it as favorable, neutral, or unfavorable. And again, some key analysis around there. We can also monitor what's going on with Facebook activity. If you want to tie that to a campaign or just in general track your Facebook trend over a certain period of time. We have the ability to pull in a Twitter trend, again, doing our analysis along with that. And then here's just some more Facebook and Twitter trending information or different ways to show that. And then we have the ability to identify some the influential voices out there. And while we don't mention them by name here, we can put together these what we call notables and quotables, which are key quotes that impact what's going on during this period of time. But then also, if you do want to understand who are those influential people out there, we're able to develop databases as them as we're monitoring for you and potentially go back and do research for them on your behalf if you'd like. And then, of course, we also have the ability to pull in videos. And this is just a page with different video examples, and you can click on these links if you'd like. So that's it for our platform. Again, it's really designed to take social media, or to take this online presence to the next level. And again, we've been doing this for 5 years now. We put it on hold for a couple months only because we wanted to rebuild it based on a need in the industry. And we conducted survey among our clients and users of these platforms, both ours and competitor platforms. And this was, these were common pain points that we heard is, I don't have time to make sense of it. My staff doesn't have time to make, and we really need someone who's a professional in this area to tell us what's going on. So with that,
stuff, Dan. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Finish up. I'm sorry.
No, with that, I'm going to hand it back to Bill.
Okay. Well, actually, this is Dave again. We are going to open things up for questions. We've got the widget that should be on your desktop for GoToWebinar, so you should see a dialog box for questions. So we're going to open things up to all attendees. If there's anything for either Dan or Bill, feel free to ask away, and I'll communicate those to our presenters. So I'll give you a few seconds to put together some questions. Okay, well, here's a quick one here. Katie is asking, falls within the mobile app arena. Do the implementation and tracking strategies for mobile change based upon the type of app? Who could answer that one?
Sure. So that's a great question, and the answer to that is definitely yes. There's sort of a couple of different ways to think about the apps in terms of native or hybrid. With hybrid being sort of an application wrapper where it really just interfaces with a mobile website within that wrapper, versus the hybrid, which would be sort of the traditional apps on iOS and Android. And while the implementations definitely change in that the native apps leverage the SDK and the hybrid apps kind of can use a mix of the JavaScript tracking and the SDK, the approach may be different in each of those, but we highly recommend our clients to still throw out the page view model and think about things more from an action tracking and common identifier, the two main points of focus that I mentioned early on. That focus should remain the same regardless of the different applications or the different platforms that you may be implementing on.
Great. Here's another question from Brad. I've used many online monitoring tools, and all I have received is just a lot of dashboards. Your approach sounds like it goes beyond that. Can anyone comment?
Sure, this is Jan. I'd love to comment on that. Brad, that is the complete premise behind where we're taking Sonar. There are a ton of dashboards out there. You can get data feeds all day long, and it's up to you to read through those data feeds and really understand what they're saying or what's being said about your brand. Again, it's up to you to log on to that dashboard and make sense of it. Our clients don't want that. They hire somebody to allow them to focus on doing their jobs and for us to do our jobs. And our job is to provide insights around communications. So we've applied the human approach. It's lost a lot in this day and age, but when you're really analyzing communications, it's important that your people read through it and provide you with those analytics as opposed to a computer determining what's favorable and what's not.
Okay. Here's another one from Jeff. which channels does social tend to influence the most for your clients?
Sure. So I'll start this off, but then Dan, obviously add some color in here as you see fit. I mean, I think this goes back to my point earlier that each channel is different and there's a different audience in each channel. And one of the things that we spend quite a bit of time working on with our clients as you think about building a measurement framework for social is being able to track from the point of interaction, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, and track, where those users are going or versus where you're intending them to go. And so, you may find that folks, that interacting with you on Facebook are, predominantly on mobile, and but being able to build that framework and understand the goals that you're trying to achieve allows you to ask the right questions and build the tracking methodology in place to actually be able to answer those. And again, very similar to mobile as a channel, the goal here with social is to get value out of it, and the only way you can get that value is by truly understanding how your interactions are impacting customers and their ability to then interact with you, to build loyalty and to influence them in the social channels to convert in whatever way that may be for your business.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, a social strategy doesn't mean that you have to be on every single social channel. You have to be on the ones that are important to your customers. So by understanding your customer environment and where they are in the social sphere is going to provide you with some direction. But it's also amazing. We're very surprised. You'd be surprised at the number of companies that we run into who really just don't know how to develop a social strategy. And a lot of them just want to focus on Twitter only. I mean, so it's still wide open. I think we're well ahead of the game, and I think there's a lot of other firms out there that are ahead of the game. Now we need to bring the clients to us.
Great. Let's see. We've got another one, and thanks so much for everyone participating. This is great. Makes it really exciting here. In this this is from Mike. In this multi-device world, what's the one pain point or pitfall that marketers make in their data collection and analysis? And what is Stratigent's perspective?
Sure. So that's a great question. I could probably go on for hours about this, but I think if I had to highlight the biggest mistake in the multi-channel world is not thinking about the tracking and how you want to build the data set that you're looking to build from that multi-channel view. So if you're implementing in a silo, for example, just implementing web analytics in the eyes of I want to track my website, and not implementing your web analytics tool in the eyes of I want to be able to track my interactions with my website, but then integrate that with the call center interactions or the CRM data or so on and so forth. Thinking about it from that siloed view causes you, in many cases, to build something that's not scalable. And it's all about focus, right? You're not going to end up at that utopian view, as I mentioned before, early on. But you want to build towards that, and you want to make sure that you have the course set to get there. It's just a bunch of quick wins that get you there instead of one giant leap. And what Stratigent does for our clients in this realm, given our business and technical expertise, is we're able to really get to the root and the bottom line of what the organization's trying to do, what data sets they have available to them, and what they want their customers to do with them in these different channels. And from there, we can really build a strategic plan for implementing the right data sets and getting the right data to the right people at the right time. And then leverage our business expertise to help them build an optimization program to take action on what that data story is telling them. So it's all about not viewing it as a silo and viewing it as you're trying to build a program, not implement just a single technology.
Okay, I think we have just time for just one last question. And I'm sorry I couldn't get to everyone's questions, but here's one from Jonathan. Are there any particular themes by vertical for different usages of social for your clients?
Yeah, I'll defer this one to you, Dan. Are there some trends that you tend to see, for the different types of social channels for for the analysis that your team's doing?
Again, I go back to Twitter being probably the prominent channel that clients want to understand, and also it's an area where they're engaging. So that's important across all channels. But then we also have the ability to get very industry specific with our approach by focusing on channels that our clients are interested in. But it really goes back to a point I made earlier. Clients don't need to be everywhere. They need to be where their target market is. So conducting research and understanding how that market behaves online, where are the places that they go to, the conversation or the online water coolers that they visit and engage in, I think is important. I can't really say that if there are differences by industry, it will come down to industry-related groups that are online.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would add to that is, we've seen clients trying to do a lot of different things, and Facebook and Twitter being the two most prominent. I think with Facebook we see a lot more of sort of the fun and viral variety of messaging on the Facebook side, and more of the customer service informational on the Twitter side. Although this will again continue to be interesting with Twitter's IPO and the Twitter advertising options, and it's becoming more and more marketable, I think, from that standpoint. So it should be really interesting to watch the landscape changing. And I think the important thing here is that you need to try something and have a way to measure the effectiveness of whatever it is you're trying. And if it doesn't work, that's not a failure. It's a learning. And you need to be able to adapt and develop new hypotheses and try new things in these channels, because that's the beauty of it, as I mentioned before, is that they're very fluid. You don't need to worry about things like IT lockdown as you have had to with websites. And it gives you the ability to try a lot of different things and work on branding, recognition, loyalty, or whatever it is that may be the goal for you in those channels.
That's great, guys. I think it's time to wrap up. Dan Solis, thanks so much for covering Sonar, especially going over the dashboard and the platform capabilities. Wonderful demo. Thank you. And thanks to Bill Bruno. Great insights in regards to multi-channel world, especially focusing on analytics, especially on the mobile side of things. Thanks, guys, for sharing wonderful information.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Yep, take care.
That concludes today's webinar, A Multi-Channel Renaissance, Ebiquity and Stratigent. On behalf of Stratigent CEO Bill Bruno and Ebiquity Managing Director Dan Solis, we'd like to thank you for participating in today's event. For further questions, comments, or requests, of course, your screen is showing who you can contact. If there's other things you'd like for us to get back to you on, of course, email marketing@stratigent.com. We promptly we will respond to your inquiries immediately. Once again, thanks for all attending today's webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.